Good morning, students. Let us begin the lesson explanation. Let us start from where we left. So, open page number 46, last para. When I was alive, said the prince, I had a heart like every other man, but I did not know what tears were. I lived in a place where there was no sadness. In the daytime, I played with my friends in a beautiful garden, and in the evening, I danced. There was a high wall round the garden, but I did not know what lay on the other side. So I was called a happy prince. I was pleased with my little world. So, children, in the previous para, we learnt that they had a conversation wherein the bird asked the happy prince about who he was and why he was crying. So, here the happy prince starts speaking. He tells him about himself. He tells that when he was alive, he also had a heart like every other man, and he was so happy those days because he lived in a palace and where there was no sadness. Then he played with his friends in a beautiful garden in the daytime, and in the evening he danced. And there was a high wall around the garden, and he never could see the other side. So he never could see misery, sadness, or poverty or hardships of people outside the palace. So that is why he was called a happy prince. So he was happy in his own small world. And further, he says that now I am dead and they have put me up here. I can see all the unhappiness of my city. My heart now is made of a cheap metal, but even that poor heart can feel, and so I cry. So he tells that now he is dead and he is put up as a statue on a maybe a tall pillar, and from there he can see now the sadness, unhappiness in his city, and his heart obviously is now made of cheap metal because the statue is made of metal. So his heart is although made of cheap metal, but still he can uh, feel, or that poor heart can also feel about the misery, the sadness, whatsoever that he sees around in the city. And that is why, and that is the reason why he is crying. So, oh, said the swallow to himself, he is not only gold on the outside. So, children, here, what does he say? What do you mean by he is not only gold? To be, it's a phrase we can say that good as gold. To be good as gold, it means to be very good. So, it is oftenly used, this phrase is oftenly used when we want to describe a person, because gold is the considered to be the best substance or metal. That is why a very good person can be compared to gold. So it is a phrase used to be good as gold. So here the swallow says to himself that he is not only gold on the outside. It means he is not only good from outside, but he is good from inside as well, because he has a very good heart. Another phrase that we can use, which is commonly used for a genuine person, for a generous person, let me tell you, it is to have a heart of gold. I repeat, to have a heart of gold is another phrase used for a person who is very genuine, who is always ready to help others, ready to extend help to others, etc. So, two phrases you learnt here: to be good as gold and to have a heart of gold. So, we move on to the next para. Far away from here, said the happy prince in a low voice. There is a poor house in a little street. Through an open window, I can see a woman at a table. Her face is very thin and she has rough red hands. She is making a dress for one of the queen's ladies for a dance in the palace. Her little boy is lying on a bed in the corner of the room. He is very ill. He is crying because she can only give him water from the river. Little bird, will you take my red jewel to her? I cannot move from here. What the prince continues that uh, from here I can see that there is a poor house in a little street, and where a woman is stitching or some a dress for a queen's ladies and for a party for a dance in the palace, and her little boy is ill. He's lying on a bed in the corner and she cannot attend him and she cannot give him because there's nothing that she can provide except water from the river. So he says that will you just go and give this red jewel to her so that she can make her living, she can purchase few things and make herself comfortable. So what's the answer of the word? He said that my friends are waiting for me in Egypt. So obviously he is already left behind 6 weeks behind, and children, you know that birds migrate from a very very cold region to a warmer region where they can get ample food, where they can have their breeding season, etc. Because the areas where there is very very cold, birds cannot get ample food and they may die due to severe cold. So he wants to move to Egypt. He had planned actually to move to Egypt, but that night, the previous night, he stayed at the feet of the prince. So now he has plans to move, but the prince persuades him to wait for one more day and do this good work. Let us move on to the next para. Little bird, said the prince. Please stay. The boy is crying and his mother is so unhappy. The happy prince looked very sad and the little swallow was sorry for him. It is very cold here, he said, but I will stay with you for one night. Tomorrow I will take the jewel. Thank you, little bird, said the prince. So when the prince persuades him to stay, uh, telling that the boy is crying and his mother is so unhappy. So the bird, although it is very cold, he decides to stay and help him by taking the jewel to that woman. Thank you, little bird, said the prince. So the swallow took the great red jewel from the prince's waist and flew away with it over the roofs of the town. He passed the palace and heard the sound of dancing. So this was so easy for a bird to fly over the city. So he took the red jewel and passed over the city, over the roofs of the town, and started approaching towards the woman's house. Let us move on to the next para. The bird passed over the river and flew and flew. At last he came to the poor little house and looked inside. The boy was lying on the bed. The mother was asleep. She was so tired. He flew in and put the great red jewel on the table. Then he flew round the bed, moving the air around the boy's face with his wings. So this bird flew and entered the house of that woman, poor woman. Then he kept the jewel over there, and just he flittered over or hovered over in the house. So while hovering, some air was moved from here and there due to his wings. Oh, said the boy, my face does not feel so hot. I think I am getting better. And he fell asleep. So the Gentle air that moved around by the movement of his wings made the boy comfortable, and so he fell asleep. Then the swallow flew back to the happy prince. It is strange, the swallow said. It is very cold, but I feel quite warm. Why he is feeling quite warm? Because he has done a good work. That is because you have done a good thing, said the prince. The little swallow fell asleep. Okay, and let us start with the next para. When day came, the swallow flew down to the river for a bath. A clever man saw him. That is very unusual, he said. That kind of bird here in winter. I must write that down. Children usually who people who observe birds, they know which bird visits a certain place and which month. So obviously it was the winter was approaching, and the swallows are not found in winter in that particular area. So the men who at the river uh, was surprised to see, and he said that I should note down. People usually note down about birds who visit a certain area in a certain period or month. So I must write that down, he said. I will go to Egypt tonight, thought the swallow. When the moon came up, he flew back to the happy prince. Can I do anything for you in Egypt? He said. Little bird, said the prince, please will you stay with me for one more night? So now the prince persuades and requests the bird to stay for one more night, whereas the swallow has planned to go to Egypt, to fly to Egypt tonight. So he had only come approached the prince to ask that if he has anything to do in Egypt. But what does the prince say? He requests the bird to stay for one more night. Children will stop here. Rest will do in the next period. Thank you.